Welcome to our 2025 conference. Thank you for joining. The reason we do this is the same that we've been doing it for the last many years. And first and foremost, give us all a chance to be inspired. And what inspires us the most is hearing how organizations are using LabKey software. So you'll notice a lot of the content is our end users presenting how they use LabKey. After all, that's what motivates us as the employees of LabKey, and as well as many of you. You'll also have a chance to learn from LabKey and hear from Adam and our account managers about the latest and product updates, as well as some best practices. And finally, we use this as an anchor to make sure everybody understands that we want feedback. So by having a conference like this, it generates a lot of ideas and leads to a lot of feedback on how we can improve and do better as an organization. So thank you everyone for joining. While this is our annual conference, I will say this annual conference is definitely coming on the heels of a year that we've never seen before, and we've been doing this for 20 plus years, and I know all of you are acutely feeling the same challenge, the same pressure, the same oddity of the year it's been, and the challenging year it's been for anyone involved in scientific research, and yet still there's a lot for us to celebrate. I mean, a lot of resilience has been shown by all of you and by us to a degree as well. And that's part of what we come here to do is to celebrate and to collaborate and to innovate, especially in a year of challenge. It's absolutely even more critical to come together as a community, share ideas, share the enthusiasm for the research that we're all doing, that we're a part of. So thank you for being part of our community, and thank you for being here today. What's helped us this year especially is a history of 20 years of partnerships. And I'll say it's times like these that you look back on your history even more so and say, why are we here? How did we get here? What's the purpose? What's the vision of the company? And our vision has always been very, very clear from the day we started. We were started at a nonprofit, at a research organization at the Hutch. We were started by folks who really were at the point in their career where what they wanted to do is to contribute to scientific research. And that's just what they did by starting this company. And for 20 plus years, we've had incredible partnerships. Some of those partnerships have been with us since the beginning. Others are much newer. And so all of you on this call today, we think of you as partners, as part of the LabKey community. So thank you for that journey together. So we've always felt that LabKey is a unique company. I felt that when I first joined 10 plus years ago, and I still feel this today. And many of you will echo this and say, yeah, LabKey is a different company. And so that's helped us, especially this year. And I think that's helped many of you. Some of that uniqueness is how we approach our partnerships. We have dedicated account management support. You all know your account managers and think of them often as partners or collaborators or part of your team. And that is so important to us. We know a lot of software companies don't do that, or they talk that, but they certainly don't walk the walk. And we do with our account management model. We do that with our team, with having a deep scientific expertise or deep technical expertise in their respective area. LabKey is also different in our commercial approach. We still offer a robust community edition software. And for many of you, candidly, and Adam did a presentation earlier this year, who have had funding constraints, having free, robust enterprise software is critical for your research. But it goes beyond that. We put our pricing on our website. We do that to be transparent. We don't have different prices for different organizations. We say, here's our pricing, and we'll talk to you about that. We'll work with you on what we can and can't do. But we also do that in terms of being very inclusive in our pricing. We don't charge for different items. We don't charge extra for training or support or different releases. We have a very consistent pricing approach. And we find that commercial approach overall is part of being a good partner. And lastly, one of the things that makes us unique is how we started. We're primarily an employee-owned company. I mean, that's really it. We think that has given us a lot of benefits for the year, especially in this year. Instead of being worried about the next month or the next quarter, because that's what our investors are focused on, we're focused on the long term. I guess you don't exist as an employee-owned company unless you are focused on the long term. That's just what we've done. So we think this year more than any year that uniqueness has benefited us, but we also think it's benefited you as our partners. So What have we done this year? We continued to learn, we continued to grow where we could, we continued to improve working together. We had numerous product enhancements. You'll hear about those from Adam. You'll hear about those from some of our users, our account managers. We all spent a lot of time this year strengthening our product for further scalability and performance and reliability, knowing we can never rest on our laurels. We have to keep improving, whether that's looking at tools, different AI tools, on how we can be more efficient and more effective, or how we can help you be more efficient and effective with your research. We need to always be looking to continue to learn and develop. One of the things I'll share sometimes at this conference is, what are we doing internally? We don't spend as much time talking about our own professional development in our account management calls, but this year in particular, we took on the journey of saying, how can we get better? And one of the things that our employees told us is, let's get better at giving each other feedback. Feedback's so important for growth. So let's double down on our training and bringing outside trainers, bringing internal trainers, and get better at giving each other feedback, because a feedback culture is what we want to be, because that's how you make sure you have a culture that continues to grow and learn and improve. So we've done a lot of training internally for our own employee professional development. So lastly, the key for us to learning and growing is your ongoing feedback. Many of you should have already received our annual survey. That's just one of our vehicles for feedback. And so hopefully you've got that and you'll fill that out. So thank you. Thank you for being there for us. This year, more than ever, we needed it. You needed it. We needed it to be able to continue to be a healthy business. And you're there for us in numerous ways. One of the ways you're there for us is your subscription renewals. You don't renew, we don't exist. It's a pretty simple model. And you did, and you were creative and you found different ways to do it, but you did it, and that keeps us growing in a healthy company. You also give us referrals. We do not have a traditional sales or marketing model. We rely on referrals for our new business more than anything, and you've done that. You've introduced us to others in your organizations. You've introduced us to other organizations. Some of you had lost funding and then found new roles, or found funding and came back. And we appreciate that. So thank you for being there for us, so we can be there for you. So we've got a packed agenda today, and I think it's a really well-balanced agenda, thanks to Will and Keith and the account management team for balancing that agenda, and for, most importantly, for our clients who are presenting and sharing their insights today. So please, during the day, ask questions. And like I said, think of this as a starting point to giving us feedback and asking more questions throughout the year. So with that, I will turn that over to my colleague and our co-founder and the head of product strategy, Adam Rauch.
Thank you, Michael. All right, Adam Rauch here. Once again, taking about 15 minutes to summarize everything the LabKey team has been doing over the last year. It's always a bit of a challenge, but we're going to try to do it. So this year, I decided to kind of focus on a few different themes, kind of the most important themes that I've seen over the last year, the objectives and themes that we've been focused on to make our products better for you. So that starts with security. Security is always top of our minds, top of our list, and one of our biggest investments that we make. You know, if there's one thing we do, it's secure your data, protect you and your users and your data, and ourselves for that matter, from various threats that are out there on the internet. So the security investments are numerous. I've summarized a couple here. I'll kind of highlight a few of the ones that I think are kind of most important for you to know about. A couple of these are not on the slide, but I'll just sort of highlight third-party dependencies. This is one area where we've made strides in the last year, where we now have an automated process that alerts us every single morning if a new potential vulnerability shows up in one of the many dependencies that are included in our products. So every morning we get notified, and developer or developers start an investigation, an analysis, and if necessary, a mitigation for that. And we've moved to a weekly release cycle where we release a new version of our product every single week. And those maintenance releases can incorporate fixes if necessary, security patches, etc., to keep you safe on basically a daily, weekly basis. So that's a very proactive process that we've instituted in the last year. Another kind of more ad hoc process is the running of security scanners on our product and on our cloud infrastructure. This is something that we do on a regular basis. If there are any interesting findings in those reports, we of course address those. Also, many of our clients run security scanners in their infrastructure, on their deployments of LabKey, provide us information, and that allows us to iterate and improve the security of the product. Again, on basically a weekly basis, we incorporate any of those changes that might be necessary. And then, as I mentioned on the slide, we've made some improvements to our authentication protocols. That's what SAML, TOP-P, Duo, these are all authentication-related features. SAML is a single sign-on protocol that's used by many enterprises, and we've improved that to support passwordless login. If that's supported by the IDP, we also pass parameters to the IDP if necessary. Duo, so two-factor authentication has become basically a standard and a requirement for many organizations. And we support two different forms of two-factor authentication. One is integration with Duo. The other is integration with TOP-P. TOP-P you might know more familiarly as the 6-digit codes that show up on your phone, and you need to enter them into certain websites at login time. So TOP-P is a protocol that LabKey supports. We've supported it for a couple of years, but we've made improvements to make it actually more usable. So specifically, we've added the ability for administrators to choose to allow users to save, to kind of remember a trusted browser for a period of time, say 30 days. So with that in place, you can provide your users with two-factor authentication using TOP-P, but require them to deal with those codes once a month, which is fairly reasonable. There are other settings as well. You can do it weekly, you can do it every year, or every login if that's what your organization requires. So you have flexibility, but that allows you to provide a little more convenience to your user. On the Duo side, we have updated our Duo support to support their universal prompt, to integrate with universal prompt in Duo. So lots of improvements there. And then probably in some ways, the most important and most obvious change that we made is to support a strict content security policy. So starting with 25/7, the server in all of our products will send a strict content security policy to the browser that disallows, forbids inline script and the retrieval of external resources. So in other words, a resource that comes from a site other than your LabKey deployment. So that's sort of the standard default content security policy. And this is an important change. Hopefully you've seen information about this in the release notes and other publications. We've documented it fully. We're providing administrators and developers all of the resources they need. Our account managers have talked to all of our clients about this. Shouldn't be a surprise at this point, but it is an important change, and it does require, if you have, for instance, custom pages, custom JavaScript, you may need to make changes. Inline script is no longer allowed, for instance. External resources need to either be removed or approved through the admin UI. And we provided a number of different settings on both of these fronts to allow administrators to kind of override the strict CSP to allow certain, specific resources or specific sites that can provide resources and other customizations to make this work. There are also some temporary overrides that you can put in place if you discover after installing, say, 25/7 that you still have some scripts you need to deal with. You can kind of override the policy temporarily. But of course, this policy is in place to protect you. It is an additional layer of security that essentially guarantees no cross-site script injection issues, no cross-site resource injection issues. So that's why we've put it in place. If you have questions about this or need help kind of clearing your custom pages, please talk to your account manager. So moving on from security, this section I labeled raising the bar. I had a lot of different names for it, but basically we spent a huge amount of time on infrastructure and improvements that come from you, that our clients requested. Some of these are small things, some of them are larger things, but in general, we just focused a lot of our attention on improving the quality of our product, making it easier to use, making it more consistent across the board, improving performance, especially performance at scale, and in general, just making your workflows more seamless. So one of the things we did was do a lot of analysis of real world data that you provided to us. So we got to see the column names and the table names and the types of data and the quantities of data and how the data is sort of interlocked and integrated. And we've used those data sets directly in our testing. We have expanded those data sets using AI and other tools to create much larger data sets that still represent data in the real world. And these data sets are now incorporated into our test suites. We have expanded our test suites dramatically because we recognize that 22 years of developing products here, there were some aspects of our product that were less well tested and some that were better tested. And so we kind of filled in those gaps, added more to the test suites, and then improved consistency across the board. There were just some kind of arbitrary inconsistencies. For example, a list primary key column, its name could be 65 characters, whereas every other column in the table could be 200 characters long. That's just arbitrary. No need for that kind of inconsistency. So we made improvements across the board there. Improvements to support, for instance, emojis and 2, 3, 4 byte characters across the board everywhere. As we expand further and further into international markets, this becomes more and more important. And then another area where we made some investments, kind of fewer resources were needed for this, but it's something I just want to point out because it's something you may see, you will come across. We are actually, again, as you know, our products are very extensive. SDMS is an expansive product with lots of capabilities and features. Some of these features aren't really used, and features that aren't used just add settings and configuration and potential confusion. And it's best to kind of remove those periodically. If folks aren't using, if users aren't making use of a feature, let's not maintain it. Let's not put it in front of folks and administrators and in the documentation and everywhere else. So every release, we have we have deprecated some features. So you will see this in the release notes. We make it very clear these features have been deprecated and will be removed. That's kind of what that means. And this process, we go through a fairly rigid process when we do this, where we look at the metrics, we see who, and every single LabKey server that reports metrics, we look to see, are they using this capability? Is this feature being used? And then, for those who might be using the feature, we talk to them. We talk to those particular customers and find out, how are you using it? Are you using it? Is this important to you? And only then we do that type of analysis and deprecate a feature if appropriate. And then typically we deprecate one release and remove it in the following release, so 4 months later. Again, this is all published in the release notes. You can also, within the admin console, visit the deprecated features section and see all the current features that are deprecated and about to be removed. So I just want to, so obviously there are many other things that we have done, lots of new features and capabilities. I just want to encourage you to re-review the release notes for each release. It's actually pretty easy to do that if you go to the current 25.7 release notes. At the bottom of that page, there's a link to the 25.3 release notes. And at the bottom of that page, there's a link to the 24.11 release notes. So you can kind of see from the last year, what are all the features that got added. We spent a lot of time on these release notes. We try to make them as accurate and complete as possible. So that is a great resource for seeing more of what the team has done over the last year. So Michael mentioned feedback. I've already mentioned feedback. Your feedback is incredibly important. We use that over the last year in, well, pretty much all of those sections, all of those themes that I mentioned before. In every case, we've gotten feedback from you on security, feedback on the raising the bar initiatives, and feedback on features to remove. So this starts with your conversations with your account manager. So whether it's weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, those conversations are super important. And that's a great way for us to get feedback and improve our product accordingly. There are also, we try to arrange quarterly check-ins between you and the LabKey team. These are a little different in that typically we invite leadership within your organization and leadership within LabKey. That might be me, that might be Michael, our CEO, that might be our VP of strategic partnerships, a variety of leaders that might not normally be in those weekly or bi-weekly meetings, to kind of sit down and really take a look at, how is this relationship working? What can we do better as LabKey? What can your team do better? How can we make sure that this engagement is meeting your needs and goals? Of course, support tickets are critical. That's what kind of feeds into our client requested improvements process, where we look at every request that comes from our clients. We analyze them, score them, estimate them, and make a determination whether that's something that we can do within the product. But if we don't get that feedback, we won't make those improvements. Our usage and usage statistics and metrics, we look at those on a daily basis to make decisions. So report metrics to us, and we will analyze those. They're super easy. You don't have to do anything. The product reports them automatically on a nightly basis to us, and we use that data quite extensively. And finally, Michael mentioned it. I'll mention it. Please fill out that client survey. Now's the time to do it. You'll see a link to it on labkey.org, and hopefully you've received a link in email. We want to capture your feedback, capture your experiences with LabKey, and again, we use that data to improve ourselves. One kind of fun thing we did this year, which is a little different for us, we went to the lab, and you can see we actually wore lab coats in one case. We went to the lab, we learned how to use pipettes, and we extracted DNA and we analyzed the DNA, kind of like what you do, what many of our customers do. So we did that, and then we entered our findings into our products, and we learned an awful lot. We learned what it's like to work in a lab, and we learned what it's like kind of hands-on to use our product in that kind of environment. And again, this was just a way for us to kind of have some fun, but also learn and figure out how we can improve our products and make it work better for you, better for those who use our products. A reminder, as Michael said, I did a webinar navigating funding cutbacks. One of the things that I mentioned there, I want to emphasize here, just as a reminder, is that your SDMS editions come with other products kind of embedded in them, with other offerings. So Starter Edition has a sample and freezer management system, first-class sample and freezer management system. We call Sample Manager. All of our editions include hosting, no extra charge. So included, we can host your product for you, your deployment, and ease that process. We take care of everything for you. Likewise, Professional Edition has Sample Manager, but also adds workflow management and other capabilities of Sample Manager Professional. It adds an electronic lab notebook. So these are cases where perhaps you don't need a separate freezer management system that is separate from LabKey and not integrated. You can use one that's actually built in and integrated. Likewise, electronic lab notebook that's integrated with LabKey instead of an external system that's not integrated. And finally, just to touch on some initiatives we're working on. As many of you know, because we've had lots of conversations with our clients about how they are using AI along with LabKey, how we can make that process easier to integrate AI into LabKey. So we're adding capabilities within LabKey that harness AI, and we're adding hooks and APIs that will allow you to leverage AI with your LabKey data. We're working on automating workflows across the board, our LIMS product, and this will find its way into many of our other products to automate routine laboratory tasks. So automation is kind of a key initiative in the next year. And then we're also kind of as a part of this streamlining process, we are eventually going to phase out our support for SQL Server. We've already talked to our SQL Server clients about this, but we're focusing on Postgres. Just makes it easier for our development and testing, deployment, and other processes to kind of migrate to a single database going forward. This is still years away, but it's an effort that we're taking on right now.